pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this is the meeting of the Morrison County Planning Commission. The commission is made up of citizens from the 5 commissioner districts of the county and 1 county commissioner. The purpose of the commission is to oversee the preparation of the Morrison County land use controls, hear and review applications and offer recommendations for conditional use permits, interim use permits, subdivision plat approval, planned unit developments, rezones, and other matters to be considered by it under the Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance. Our powers are established in state statutes chapters 394.21 to 394.37. Conditional uses and interim uses are recommended for approval upon a showing by an applicant that the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied. All questions must be answered in the affirmative in order for the Planning Commission to recommend approval for a conditional use permit or an interim use permit, unless conditions can be attached that bring the proposed use into compliance and mitigate the negative finding of fact. Conditions and restrictions may be imposed by the Planning Commission as deemed necessary to protect the public interest. After your public hearing is complete, you may leave if you wish. And we just have one item on the agenda for the Planning Commission tonight, and that is Janet Holtz, 11658 Highway 238, Royalton, Minnesota. Application is for an interim use permit for a home extended business, specifically to process firewood, located in the west half of Southeast Quarter, Section 2, Township 127, Range 30, Two Rivers Township. Janet, would you want to step forward up here? When you get situated, then state your name for the record, please.
Janet Holtz.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I think we'll go and move over to the staff report. Amy?
Yes, Mr. Chair, again, this is an application for an interim use permit for a limited rural business. This is located in Section 2 of Two Rivers Township. Section 604.8 of the Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance requires an interim use permit for limited rural businesses. And Section 1211.4 contain the performance standards for limited rural businesses. Here's a plat map of Elmdale Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. Elmdale and Two Rivers, pardon me. Here's the interim use permit request received from the applicant, and then also a site drawing provided by the applicant. And then here's an aerial photograph of the parcel, and it's outlined in blue. And then here's some oblique imagery of the property. The applicant owns and lives on this 80-acre parcel. An unnamed stream runs through the property, so it is dually zoned agriculture and shoreland. The property is a mix of crop field, animal holding area for a Tier 1 chicken feedlot, woods, and river. And then here is another shot of the parcel with the zoning layer turned on, and you'll see the area in green has a shoreland designation, and then the rest is ag. The applicant owns and operates a small business called Holtz Firewood and Tree Service. They currently have 2 employees. Most of their customer base is in the metro. The applicant is proposing to establish a limited rural business at their home site in Morrison County. They propose to install a kiln to process wood prior to delivery to customers. The use would take place within the agriculture zone portion of the property. And then here is just another aerial photograph, and then the brackets that you see in black are kind of where that operation is taking place. The parcel is served by Minnesota State Highway 238, which is a paved state highway, and the existing driveway would be utilized for the business. Uses on adjacent parcels are primarily rural residences, crop fields, and forest. And then here is a zoomed out aerial photograph so you can see what's going on in the area. Here are the performance standards for limited rural businesses. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you do have them in your packet, and I have them here on the PowerPoint, and I can refer back to them if you have anything you want to circle back on. Staff discussed the following with the applicant at the development review team meeting. About 40 loads of logs are delivered per year. Most customers are in the metro, and the applicant delivers wood. Maximum time the logs are on site is about 6 months. And the kiln would be installed outside the shoreline zoning district, south of the log and wood piles. And then the desired end date would be when the applicant no longer owns the property. As a reminder, this is an interim use permit, so you do need to put that end date on there. Suggested condition would be that the limited rural business shall not be conducted within the shoreline zoned portion of the property. And then again, that reminder that the interim use permits must be conditioned with an end date. And then your applicable comprehensive plan goals and objectives in agriculture is goal A1, objective 6. Goal A2, objective 1. And then under local economic development, goal C1, objective 1. Objective 8 and goal C2. Objectives 1, 2, and 7. And 19. 30 notices were sent. 1 phone call in support of the request was received prior to the public hearing. That was received by Mary Jane Fusi, and she was calling on behalf of Walter, herself, and Dale, and they stated that they were okay with this IUP request. And then here are your interim use criteria questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Amy. At this time, Janet, the applicant, would you have anything to add to this, or how we came about wanting this permit, or a little history, or whatever? Plead your case.
Plead my. Well, we've been in the firewood business for about 20, 25 years, and we've always bought it outside of our residence. And it's just been getting more difficult finding, a good product. So that's why in turn we started to process our own. And so I wasn't even aware that we had to have an interim permit. But when I went forward to look into getting a kiln put in, that's when it was brought to our attention. Yep. And so that's why I am here.
So I'm gonna ask one question, being you said the kiln. How big is this kiln? Like, how much are you gonna be able to do with it?
They vary in size. The one
Yeah.
we're looking at the smallest one, so it's roughly the exterior dimensions are roughly a 16 by 20. They do come larger, but that is we're just going with the smallest. And we're just looking into it because they are rather expensive, and so we're looking into, getting it approved first before we obviously make that big purchase.
Okay, anybody in the planning commission have questions? Looks like Marv's got one. Go ahead, Marv.
Mr. Chair, first, Janet, the question I have is, does the state require wood to be kilned to be sold at certain sites? Is that why you're doing?
Yes.
The next question is the state come and inspect the sites here that the kiln's at? Does that happen?
I do not believe so. I know there was a while ago, the DNR did come in onto the property just to make sure that there was because of the ash borer, just to look and make sure nothing is being, we're not bringing nothing back.
Okay, the next question is, you're going to have sawdust, you're going to have debris. What do you do to dispose of that, and where does that go?
Well, currently, right now, we have it on a pile. There are some farmers that have asked to have it, delivered. They'll bring it into their farms and use it, I believe, for bedding, for the animals. And then we do have one of our neighbors close by. They'll take some of the chips for for a roadway or for something out on their property. We just unload it for them, and they do with what they need with the wood chips.
Okay, and next comment, I know Walter and Mary Jane very well, and they're the next door neighbors. You run a well-ran operation right there. I hear from the neighbors how nice of an operation you run and keep things neat and clean there. So I just want to comment on that, but these are my questions, and thank you.
Got it, Marv? Yep. Brent, you have any questions?
Just one. Amy, you had one condition on here, reference to staying clear of the stream. And I'm just curious to hear from Janet, how you plan to do that,
Well, it's,
to meet that condition?
well, the area that the firewood is being processed in is
Out of the green.
out of the green, right. There are some of our crates that I don't even think that they're in the green.
Some of the storage of the wood is, but the actual processing of the wood isn't. Is that a better picture for you? Either that, or I might have another one there with your brackets there that go up. So a portion of the wood storage and stacked is in the shoreline area, but the processing and then the kiln would be south of that. We want to just make sure that that continues to be the case, because limited rural businesses are not allowed in the shoreline zoning districts, so we want to make sure that that use stays south of that.
So specific to that wording of that condition, do we have that wording?
Yeah, I can bop to it. And we can definitely fine tune that. So what I had in the staff report is a limited rural business shall not be conducted within the shoreland zoned portion of the property.
And so that would be the 1,000 feet or?
300 feet. In the case of a river, the shoreland zoning district is 300 feet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I would think that go along with that, Brent, I think the way I would word it is that the kiln and the processing would stay out of the shoreland. It's just a clean, decisive wording. That way, some wood stored here and there, but they ain't doing any of the work. I think that'd probably be the proper way to word it.
We certainly can have that read however you'd like.
Marv?
Mr. Chair, I've got one more question. I noticed going past your place, you have a new building you put up where this processing plant, is that what's going to be, or were you planning on putting that kiln in that building, or what was your intent of that building?
Not in the building. It's going to be, I would say, south of the, there's two sheds on, there's an older shed and a newer shed to the north of that new building.
Okay.
So the kiln would be to the south of the, kind of in the middle of the new building and the building that was there. So in the yard area.
Okay.
So
To the
south
south.
of the one with the brown roof on this map?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And was that measurement taken, how far that is from that river then? Because we were talking,
For permitting the structure?
Yeah.
We did the structural setback from the river, yes.
okay, when we were talking is 300 feet and.
Correct,
yeah,
yes,
okay.
yep. So that was done under a permit, and so there was a site visit done to verify that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stish, you have anything?
Yeah, following up on those questions. So clarify for me, the spot where the kiln is located will meet that setback, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Those sheds that are already there meet that setback.
Yep, let me go back to the zoning layer, and then you can kind of see, and I can
Yep.
zoom that in for you. So give me just one moment, and I will zoom that in so you can see that a little bit better. Let's see. So the kiln will be south of here. So the line, the zoning change line is right here, and all of this is going to occur down here.
Okay. And you're not concerned about the pallets of lumber or any
No.
log storage?
No, as long as the processing is not done in the shoreline zoning district, that's fine.
How about the sawdust pile and that? Are we
Oh,
concerned with that?
We would need that in the ag
And
zone.
could you point out where that is currently, the sawdust pile?
Well, that's not the most current, well, it's,
Let me, I can zoom out and get to a different image for you.
Okay, I think that might be clarifying that point a bit too, where the sawdust pile is located,
Yeah,
what
I'm
the
just-
business is that we're
Give you
concerned
some
with,
oblique imagery.
that would be outside of the shoreline.
I'm just trying to figure out which photo would be the best.
Probably that one.
That's probably the best one I can give you, and I can zoom that in as well.
If it helps, you could walk up to that one and point it out to us, Janet?
oh, no. Currently, it's to the south of the brown shed, the brown roof shed,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
closer to the lot line, kind of where the dark area is.
Right over here?
We just spread. Where are you?
Oh,
like,
I'm sorry, you can't see my hand.
No, there you go.
There it
Yeah,
is.
right, in that area. Right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so could you, what's a typical day like there? Comings and goings,
Well, it
employees
depends.
and,
Okay, so it depends on the time of the year. Usually we do our processing usually in the months of January through roughly March or April,
processing being,
processing of the firewood.
cutting it into lengths and splitting and stacking and, okay,
Yep, because the logs are hauled in. Once the ground is froze, the loggers can get the logs hauled in. And so on average, during, January through April, give or take if we have an early spring, that's usually when the firewood is processed. We don't usually have the wood hauled in at the other times of the year simply because the loggers they're not getting in the woods. So that's when the processing or the cutting of the firewood is done with the logs. And then it's dried in the crates that we have. And then the other times of the year, from April through October, November, we're doing the tree service down in the cities. So we're off-site usually. I mean, if we have a slow day or rain days, the guys are processing it but on average, that's on average what is being done.
okay. And the tree service guys, they meet there and then depart?
Correct.
Okay. The sawdust, are you, you leveled a pile currently? What's your future plans? I mean, it seems like there isn't much demand for that, or,
Well, there's not a lot, we don't have a lot of sawdust, actually. We level it throughout the area, and from what we have like the two farmers that take it, and then the wood chips that the other neighbor takes, we don't have an issue with having excessive,
oh, so it doesn't accumulate?
Right.
Okay.
right,
So-
because we just spread it in the lot, kind of in where we had spoke before, in the yard area.
Okay, and the kiln will be powered or heat with propane?
Propane.
Okay, which is what you heat the poultry building with, I assume?
Correct.
Okay. So I know Marv asked the question about the DNR, and I didn't quite catch what was said about, if anything, about like oak wilt, a disease. How are you, it's in Morrison County now, it's in Crow Wing County. I don't know where your logs come from, and where your firewood goes to is primarily the cities. How is that what's the oversight on that so that the disease doesn't get spread?
Well, the logs that we purchased, it's all logged on state lands. So, the wood is all inspected already. It's not disease logs. We don't get any of that on the premises. And as far as like with oak wilt going, when they're in the cities and they're, removing trees that have the oak or the emerald ash borer, oak wilt, that has to stay in that county. So that wood has to be taken to the, the site, the compost site that, for that specific county, like we go.
So from your tree service, you're saying that wood
Right.
that's,
That doesn't come home.
okay.
Right, no. The logs are brought in from loggers, from the state lands that they log from. And, there shouldn't be any diseased wood, being brought in. Because it is inspected, when they bring it in, so, when they haul it.
Yeah, I assume the logging plan would be done by the forestry department,
Right.
by their personnel, so
Right.
they'd be on top of that. Okay, that's helpful, thank you. There was an end date proposed at the DRT meeting, and that was when you no longer own the property, and
Correct.
that's fine with you?
Yes,
There's performance standards in the packet that you received. Did you have time to review those? Do those performance standards affect you in any way?
no,
I didn't see anything on there. Sewers, that's on there, that's really not,
Wouldn't apply.
wouldn't apply, okay. Probably none of it applies, but, and so you definitely meet all those standards, or exceed. All right, just making sure that you were aware of them and had looked at them. That might be all my questions.
Okay. So maybe I could clarify a little bit about your guys' worries about the USDA inspection or any of that. I have a little bit of knowledge. I worked with another one of operations like they have with a kiln when I was in the propane business, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Janet, but I believe once they get a kiln in, then you have to get like USDA inspected to be able to sell wood at certain places. And when that happens, then they'll be under some jurisdiction that come in and have some checks, okay? As of right now, the way their operation is, there isn't any thing that comes in and checks other than, like she said, with the DNR coming in and just periodically checking. But if they get a kiln in, they're gonna go after the USDA label or to be able to sell at a different place. Then they're under their scrutiny and they'll have some performance standards for them. Am I right, Janet?
yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
One more question. Your end product, will that be individually wrapped bundles, or will it be bigger, cords, or how will you be
Well,
marketing
it's
it?
put in there, and not all of it will be kiln dried, though. It's put in there in crates, and so it's left in there for a certain amount of period, and that wood is the stuff that would be sold to the specific individuals that want it, restaurants.
Sold through the crate?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So not all of it is gonna be dried.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the only question I have, I think the other guys kind of got everything that I had down. So you have 2 employees now.
Correct.
So in their performance standard, it says not to have more than 7. You don't look to have up to 7 ever. You don't really look to expand your business much other than just trying to get USDA approved to be able to sell firewood in a different place.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had for questions. Anybody else have anything else that this brought up? So really, nothing's gonna change is what's come in before, what you've been doing.
Right.
Semis come in when the ground's froze, all them things, so, okay.
Yes.
So do we have any public comment? We heard, one letter from Amy, that was it. Any public comment? Any public comment? If not hearing any public comment, we'll close that section of the meeting. We'll close the public comment. So we don't have nobody from the township, okay. So you guys ready to go through our, interim use criteria questions? Okay. we got the first one. The use will not put an excess burden on roadways, utilities, and public facilities such as parks and schools. Brent.
This is located off of paved State Highway 238. I don't hear of any objections from the county engineer. I don't see any excessive burden on the utilities or the public facilities in the area. It's run 6 months out of the year with 40 loads approximately, and they're going to continue using the existing driveway there, so I don't believe that there's an excessive burden on any roadways, utilities, or public facilities.
Okay, Marvin, you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add, and I agree totally with that statement.
Mr. Stish.
Amy, I assume the state was notified of this, and,
Yes, Mr. Chair,
And
and
no-
we did not receive any comment from MnDOT.
okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm fine with the answer that we have, yep.
Okay. Yeah, all I'd add is this is kind of unique to some of the other ones we had when we're dealing on trucks going in and out. They're right off a state highway. It's designed for that, so there's just no issue with that. There's no schools close, so I agree with everything else. So we'll move on to question 2. The request will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant properties for uses predominant in the area. Dave Stish.
Amy, question, how many letters were sent out? Oh, sorry.
30, I believe.
30.
Okay, thank you. So 30 letters, 1 response in favor of. So that answers our question about how it might affect others. There seems to be no effect there. We have performance standards that need to be met if necessary. Setbacks are sufficient, and whatever they do there should not affect any of their neighbors and their ability to expand what they're currently doing. See no reason why this would be detrimental to others or their use of their properties.
Okay. Marv, you have anything to add?
The only thing I'll add is their next door neighbor is the one that led a letter of support for this.
Okay, thank you, Marv. Brent, you have anything to add?
Just that, the surrounding areas, crops and fields and forest around there, it's very consistent with the rural settings of the county.
Okay, I agree with what's been stated, so we'll move on to question 3. The use, in the opinion of the planning commission, is reasonably related to the existing land use and the environment. Groundwater, surface water, and air quality in the surrounding area will not be adversely affected by the proposed use. Marvin, we'll start with you.
First of all, it's ag property. This is basically supporting ag business, so it would meet that. Next, they're meeting the setbacks from the river. We were concerned with where it would be placed. It's going to be meeting that. So there was no negativity remarks that we've heard result in that it could go to the river, could contaminate soils or the river there. So yeah, not at all. It's what we like to see.
Okay, thank you. Brent, do you have anything to add?
Nothing further.
Yeah. Mr. Stish?
We're on number 3, correct?
Yep.
No, I'd just like to add that they're using propane, so very clean burning, should be no odors from that. I guess I did not ask the applicant if this, if operating that, it creates much noise. I mean, some kilns can produce a lot of noise, but I don't know, I've never been around one of the size that you have.
You won't hear it.
You won't hear it? Okay.
Yeah.
No roar of propane.
From my experience of working on one, you will not.
Yeah.
You'd have to be from media away.
You'd be the expert. You got
Well,
propane in your blood. So those were, and again, I agree, it's out of shoreland. There's should be no runoff if the sawdust pile is located and, the other refuse is located appropriately, and as long as it's just stacking along the fringes, and I think our condition will take care of that. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I agree with what's stated, so I have no more further comment on that. So question 4, the use is consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the zoning district in which the applicant intends to locate the proposed use. I'll take that one, and I would say yes, it is. It's zone agriculture. In agriculture, we allow logging, trees, things like that. That's part of agriculture, and part of logging is processing firewood and them types of things. So I think it totally fits in the zoning district, and then also in our ordinances, we allow for interim use permit for a business like this. So I think it's consistent. Anybody else? Stish, you have anything to add to that?
Nope.
Marvin?
The only thing I'd like to add, and it was appreciative that she had mentioned that the wood that's going to be coming is already inspected, so we don't have to worry about any contamination coming in there.
Okay. Brent, do you have anything?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. So question 5, the use is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or the water plan for the county. I'll start back to you, Brent, being Brucher's gone.
Well, while we have a stream that runs through this, with clarification from Amy, and with the condition being met, nothing will be placed within 300 feet of that. I don't see where it's in conflict with the comp plan or the water plan. And again, this is a primarily winter-run business on frozen ground, 6 months out of the year, and 40 loads of logs, so.
Okay. Marv, you have anything to
I
add?
have nothing to add other than it sounds like they're going to be following state regulations through it also.
Dave Stish?
No, I'd like to agree with Brent. With 300 feet, there's an adequate buffer between, and that's all vegetated, it looks like to me, and no traffic in it even. So plenty of buffer between any potential runoff and the creek, the waterway. Also, the applicable comprehensive plan goals and objectives are stated in the back of the staff report. And if you were to look through those, they're all consistent with this plan. I mean, the ag uses, I assume the new building took up a small bit of, maybe half an acre or whatever. This might take up, wasn't even in any area that is currently being used for ag. So ag purposes, for ag uses of the land will remain the same. Forestry and ag are complementary to each other and in the same district in Morrison County, in the same zone. Forestry is ag to a certain extent. Water is preserved, no impact. For local economic development, obviously it's something we like to see that folks are able to expand their businesses and improve upon them, and that there is a IUP process to do that. So.
Okay, thank you. I agree with everything that's stated, so I think we'll move on to our vote, but before we vote.
Did you read 5?
Yeah, that's what we just answered.
All right, I thought you were
You didn't write anything down?
Well, I added it to the.
Oh,
Okay.
that's what we were, okay, sorry. But before we vote, we had one condition, right, is what we had kind of pre-written?
Yep, Mr. Chair, there was one recommended condition. A second one, though, will have to be the end date.
Yep, and then we have our end date. We proposed to the applicant, and she thought that'd be great, is when they no longer own the property. And then our one condition, would you be able to read that back, Amy, what we kind of stated?
You bet. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So what I have after the discussion of the condition is that the kiln and the processing of the wood must not be located within the shoreland zoning portion of the property. Does that make sense? Does that capture what you wanted?
Could we add the waste piles to that too?
Absolutely.
Yep, because I think you were
Yes.
fine with that.
Yep.
So that would limit it to basically firewood
Storage.
and possibly some logs, and is there a need to say that even that shouldn't be any closer than 150 feet? I suppose if you got that close, it'd be pretty wet.
Right.
I assume the wetlands prohibit you from getting any closer than you already are. Okay, then forget what I just said.
Okay, so I'm fine with that, no more conditions. Anybody else have anything else that you would need as a condition to be able to vote?
Do we have the end date too, Amy?
Yeah.
Yes, when the applicant no longer owns the property.
Okay.
So you guys all good with what we have then? Okay, then we'll just move on to the questions and vote on them, so. Okay, number one, the use will not put an excessive burden on roadways, utilities, and public facilities such as parks and schools. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Dave Stish.
Yes.
Marvin Treadle.
Yes.
Myself, Clint Catherine, is yes. Question two, the request will not be detrimental to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor impede the normal and orderly development improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. David Stish.
Yes.
Marvin Treadle.
Yes.
Clint Catherine, myself is yes. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Okay. Question three, the use in the opinion of the planning commission is reasonably related to the existing land use and the environment. Groundwater, surface water, and air quality in the surrounding area will not be adversely affected by the proposed uses. Marvin Treadle.
Yes.
Myself, Clint Catherine, is yes. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
David Stish.
Yes.
Okay, question four, the use is consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the zoning district in which the applicant intends to locate the proposed use. Myself, Clint Catherine, is yes. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Dave Stish.
Yes.
Marvin Treadle.
Yes.
Question five, the use is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or the plan of the county, or the water plan of the county. Brent Lindgren.
Yes.
Dave Stish.
Yes.
Marvin Treadle.
Yes.
Myself, Clint Catherine, is yes. Okay, all the questions were answered in affirmative.
Mr. Chair,
Marvin?
I'd like to have us forward this to the commissioners to ask them to approve of it with the conditions we have attached.
Second.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded to approve to recommend this, that the commissioners approve this. All in favor say aye. Brent?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Marvin?
Aye.
Myself, aye. So it passes. Okay, Janet, so you have, this will go to the commissioners.
Okay.
Okay, and that meeting is,
So that meeting is on December 21st, so that's next Tuesday.
Okay.
And so we're not doing another public hearing. I'll just be bringing your application and the recommendation of the planning commission to the regular county board meeting.
Okay.
You can be there, you don't have to be there. That's a daytime meeting, they'll start at 9:00 in the morning. And then the board will consider your request and either grant or deny the application. And then you can, if you're there, you'll know the outcome. Otherwise, you can just give us a call late morning to find out how the board voted, okay?
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
thank you, and if you have any other questions moving forward, feel free to contact Land Services, and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so now next we'll approve our minutes from November 16th. Everybody have a chance to look them over?
What did you think about that error in the minutes?
You want to approve them with the included corrections, I know
If that's fine, or do you think they need to come back at our next meeting?
No.
No?
You can usually pass them with corrections.
There was just the first paragraph of the minutes under item number 1. There was just the wrong information in there.
Is what Amy enters into that.
Yep. Yep, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that also.
I
Okay.
move that we accept the minutes as presented with corrections.
Okay, motion's made by Dave Stish to approve the corrected minutes, seconded by Marvin. All in favor, say aye. Brent?
Aye.
Marv?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, any new business?
Just, Mr. Chair, just a reminder that we have that, we don't have any agenda items for the 28th of December, so we are going to have a training. I did update the time with you today. We backed that up to 3:30, so it'll be from 3:30 to 7. And it'll be here in the boardroom. I think we're going to have a really good training. I believe the full county board will be there as well, and along with the DNR. So if you have any questions specific for the DNR that you want clarified, let me know so he can prepare. But otherwise, the training will be led by Scott Anderson, which is the gentleman that led some of the training you had when you initially came on, so.
One thing, just real quick, so we don't waste a lot of time, but I think one thing for the DNR that I would like is if we could talk to them a little about these bluffs. We could use some of our last few
Yes.
cases that we had, like what do we do when this house is in a bluff and they give something and we give them something, or just some discussion on some of the bluff, I think.
Absolutely.
That would help me anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so if any, and you don't have to tell me now, but if you think of anything else, zip me an email. But that just helps prepare so we utilize our time wisely. Did you have something, Marvin? You look like you're
I
gonna
was
say
thinking
something.
about wetlands, you could, and we were, and we ran into this a few times. In certain wetlands, like a different level they had in explaining these wetlands in different levels and meet them setbacks. I think at times we've made some choices and just like, that it didn't appear to be too wet, but then.
Got it, yeah. Yep, so we, I did invite the Soil and Water Conservation District as well, and they do administer the Wetland Conservation Act. They haven't confirmed whether they're gonna be there or not, but, I think that would be a great topic for them to cover, because they know the ins and outs of those really well. From a planning commission standpoint, we will have some training on the planning commission portion of that. We will circle back and we will revisit a couple of our last agenda items and really kind of clarify the role of the county board versus the planning commission. So we just kind of get some clarity on that. Also, what, if any, appeal process someone has for that, because that's not laid out in ordinance. And so those are some of the highlights that Scott will touch on from the planning commission side. And then, of course, we'll have some board of adjustment training too. So otherwise, I don't have, the only other thing is we are gonna dig into that agriculture zoning district, hot and heavy now. And I will be scheduling some planning sessions with the county board, which you will also be requested to attend. So I will be getting those on your calendar here very soon. Yeah, and we are working on that internal website for you as well.
So one other item Dave brought up was about when land purchases are done. And here, for instance, we heard this last month, one in particular, they purchased this property. It was built in a bluff, and not knowing these out and how do we go about doing it. I don't know what the county can do with letting that information out. So,
That'd probably be a good question for Mr. Anderson. I think he could probably
Yeah, I think, yeah.
see if we have
there's
statute for that, or.
I don't think that I don't think that we can regulate ourselves to put the onus on us to make sure that people know what they're buying. Some of that is personal accountability, some of that is due diligence when you're buying a piece of property. Does the county play a role in that? Absolutely. Can we educate people? Yes, we can. I think a lot of that comes to maybe educating the professionals that they utilize when they're purchasing property, like realtors and closing companies and all that, so they're aware.
So for instance, when a person buys a piece of property, you have an inspector to inspect it like that. Could that be tied in with that in some portion.
Well, let's just save that, Marv, for
Okay,
for that planning, but yes.
I'm just for things to
Yep,
think
yep.
Yeah,
about.
these are all really,
Yep.
really good ideas, and so we definitely,
But definitely a good discussion, but let's
Yes.
bring that up at that. Let's
Yeah.
get going to our next applicants here, I think. But any other old business? I don't think
no,
there.
otherwise, on the planning commission end of things, no, I don't have anything.
Okay. So with that, then I take a motion to adjourn.
I would make that motion.
So second.
Motion made and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Meeting adjourned.